Okay, everybody, we're going to do our hydraulic timing chain tensioner upgrade. This is a 1980 911 SC motor. It's a 3.0, and this came with the mechanical tensioners. So I think these ones probably have been rebuilt. There's a little safety puck that was put in there in the past. I'm not sure how much I trust them. They're not failing at me right now, but I prefer to just replace them and have the peace of mind. Obviously I have the engine out, so it makes it a bit easier, but some of the things you want to check is making sure you're pretty much at TDC for cylinder 1, or alternatively you've got your firing pin on cylinder 1, you're close to your match mark on the distributor, and your intake and exhaust valves will be slightly open on cylinder 1. This is kind of the same position you'd be in when you're adjusting the valves on your cylinders. So you'd rotate your match mark until you're on cylinder 1, adjust your valves, and at that same position, you could also do the timing chain tensioner and get it done. I have additionally zip tied my chain to my ramps, and then kind of the chain to the gear so that the chain doesn't slip. There's some tension on it still when I remove this tensioner. I've done that to both sides. It's a little tricky to get this zip tie underneath this ramp. You can do it, just keep trying. I took a pair of pliers and kind of pulled it through once it got close. And then when we do take this off, I'm going to be lifting this arm up while I'm pulling the tensioner out, and I will not release that pressure until the new tensioner is in and I pull the pin. Same thing is going to be on this side, on this arm. Let's give it a go. All right, step 1, let's get this bolt off. It's 13 millimeter. Make sure your socket is clean. This shouldn't do anything. This is just loosely holding that on, or rather nut. If it wants to come off. Okay, and if you want to jump on this side. So what we've got here is, get your tensioner ready, have a tube on there, get your ATF can ready, and then if you have a buddy, that helps. We're going to be pulling up on this. We've got it zip tied, and then we're going to try to see how well this wants to come out. That does not feel like it wants to come out. That is tight in there. Let's pause here. All right, so we're starting with the driver's side, or rather the right side, because this side is just being too much of a pain. It's really binding, stuck on there with the nut off. All we've done is take the nut off. We've got some play here. When we get this going, there's more room. So we've got our tensioner ready to go. Let's see if this wants to come off. So I'm going to try to, I guess the try to way to hold it is I can grab from my thumb here. If I can grab from my thumb, I should be able to wiggle it out. There you go. Okay, let's wiggle it out.
Wow, that's certainly easy.
That's way easier. We'll put the new one in. I'm holding tension. I can't quite get that. I don't even know if me holding tension is doing anything. I can't even hold tension. So oh boy. This doesn't want to go on. And if I let go, oh, I'm not even on the stud, that's why. Well, that'll do it. So maybe my zip ties helped me and not making this thing all goofed up. Oh, look at that. Okay, cool. So you don't need two hands as long as you have a zip tie, so it's not going to drop. So you're good there. we have this thing to fill up some oil. Get it so that it's decently filled up. Yeah, we're pretty decent up here, so when I pull the pin, it will be okay. Let's just get our nut and washer on. Generally, we don't need it to be super tight right now, but something. This is all lined. It could be pushed back a bit more. We've got some of a gap here, you can see. So give it a bit of a whack. Doesn't want to go. That is odd. There's a bit of a gap. Loosen this guy up.
Although that's pretty centered, to be honest.
But I think that would need to be all the way down. So we're going to see what's going on here, why there's a gap, and if we can fix it. Okay, so I was having a bit of trouble on these because I have a bit of a gap on the idler arm right here and the actual tensioner. So I have the newer style arms. Sorry, it's kind of hard to focus. But with that gap, which is not showing, you can kind of see it there. It is about 2 millimeters of a gap, and I have it all around. This part where the tensioner is all the way in the back touches the head, and it is as far back as it can go, but the actual tensioner pin is centered with this arm. So I was thinking I might have needed the spacer. Turns out the spacer would be too big anyways, and apparently this little gap is normal because it, I don't know, helps align the tensioner, or rather it helps align the chain somehow. So the only thing to do would be to, like, snug this down a bit and pull this pin, which we'll do once I have some fluid. I was still having trouble with this side, trying to get this out, so we'll see what we can do there. Okay, so we've got this snug down. I haven't torqued it or anything, just give it a good snug. I'm gonna fill this up with some ATF. So this is essentially so that when I pull the pin, it has oil to suck in, so that's not sucking in air. These are already pre-bled or bench bled tensioners. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, we're gonna pull this tensioner, and this should whack up. I don't know how far, but it should. So let's see what happens. Sweet, so that whacked all the way up. That's cool, and this will have some fluid in there. And now it is good to go. Cool, that's that side. So I've pulled a pry bar, or rather a wrench, on this bottom lip and on the thing, the arm. And I squeeze down to try to push the pin in the tensioner a bit. This bolt is removed. I'm going to see if I can just pry it off slowly with not too much pressure, but enough to maybe get it to move. And it just, oh, that's it. Okay, so that popped it off. So I don't have it all the way off, but I do have my new tensioner here. So what I want to do is probably hold this with my thumb. Let's see if my thumb has enough strength to hold it up. I don't want it to drop at all. And if it does, cool. If it doesn't, I'm kind of fucked. But okay, so with that held, I can try to move this off. Okay, that is off. I'm holding that up. I'm putting not too much tension on the thumb, but enough to get something up there. And finagle this on. I'm gonna remove the tension. So this is sitting back. There is a big gap. It's a really big gap. I must not be putting this on all the way. There you go. So now there's a small gap between this arm and that. I'm gonna fill this up with some ATF so that when I pull the pin, it is not pulling air. Okay. So we should hear a bit of a thwack. Cool. That's that. So here is what I've got. There's a gap there. This pin is, it looks pretty centered. It does look like it's towards me a bit. So I might try to see if I need to give this a bit more of a whack, but that looks like it's sitting against the head. So let's get a bit of a hammer and see what's going on. But you can see there's a little gap there. That gap is probably 3 millimeters. For reference, I have a gap on this one, and that one is, I measured it, that's about 2.3 in some places. And this one visibly looks bigger. You can see, it's kind of hard to focus, but there is that much room. I think that's okay based on what I was reading. Okay. Now that you've got the tensioners on, tighten the 13 millimeter bolt to 18 foot-pounds. Got our trusty torque wrench here. There's that. Put this one on. That was it. Okay. And then we'll try turning the engine. See how that looks like. Okay, so engine turns nice and smooth, and you'll notice in this tensioner, this will move up and down just a hair. I don't have any fluid coming out of there. I've pre-bled them on the bench. We bled them when we pulled the pins by having a hose here connected with some ATF. Pull the pins, it sucked in some ATF. ATF is okay for these tensioners when you're just putting them on. And by turning the motor, everything seems fine. There's no touching of the valves that I'm seeing or hearing. I wouldn't see anything, but that seems pretty okay. So let's look at this side. Seems to be pretty smooth. I've done now, I did a little off camera, but I did about 2-3 revolutions beforehand, and it's just continuously seeming pretty smooth. Nothing is binding. It's all smooth. Spark plugs are out. And I don't even see the tensioners kind of bouncing up and down a little bit now. They're moving just a hair. And I think maybe I see that, but overall pretty good. So yeah, I think the next step is to make sure everything is perfectly clean surface here. And then I'm gonna use some aerospace gasket dressing and make sure our covers go back on really nicely, and that'll be a successful getting the tensioners on at least, and we'll button up all the hoses.